Welcome, everybody. I'm Bobby Ross Jr. with the Christian Chronicle. I'm joined today by Glenda White, who is, are you the church secretary at the West Freeway Church of Christ?
I'm the janitor, actually.
The janitor. Wow, you get the hard job.
Yeah.
Are you a former church secretary there?
Yes.
Am I remembering that right? Okay. Okay. Well, we're talking, Glenda, your husband Rich was one of the two people who were killed tragically in the shooting at the church on December 29th of last year, which is, I guess we're coming up on 8 months of that. Maybe
Right.
if you don't mind, we'll start out. Tell me a little bit about you and Rich and how y'all met and kind of how, your love story, I guess would be kind of how, maybe how to describe it.
Okay. We actually met at church. Um, his his mom and dad started attending, and then he was coming with them, and I had struck up a friendship with his mom and dad, and it just went from there.
Wow.
They were
And
just some of them that certain people you just look for, you want to see every week, and
uh-huh.
we kind of sat in the same general area. So
Okay. And when did y'all meet? When would that have been?
it was in 2011.
2011. Okay. And so when did y'all marry?
In 2011 as well. It was
2011. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So y'all were married, I guess, about 8 years or so?
yeah, eight,
Okay.
yeah, about 8.5.
Eight and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And do I remember that y'all really liked to travel? Was that a big thing that y'all enjoyed doing?
We did. We went on a cruise every year, and then we loved to go camping. So we had just bought a new camper right before this happened, and we had taken it out a couple times and gone on a long trip in September right before. So
Oh, well,
we really had a good time. We enjoyed
wow.
that.
Where did you go in September on the long trip?
We went down to I always get this wrong. It was Lajitas, Texas, down just real close to the border.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
And there's a lot of that could be a long trip. I guess that would be 500 miles or
it
something
was
like that.
a long trip.
A long trip. Okay. Okay. Great. And I guess, have the two of you been married previously and have kids and grandkids and that kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Great. How many children and grandchildren do you have between the two of you?
Between the two of us, we
Uh-huh.
have 5 kids
Uh-huh.
and
Sorry to make you do math.
12 grandkids.
Oh, wow. Great.
So
Well, anything else? I mean, before we get into some of the, I guess the really sad day that you experienced that you think would be good for people to know about Rich and about what he was like and just your relationship with him.
he was he was one of those people that never met a stranger. He just was, everybody loved Rich, and he would give his shirt off his back if you needed it. He was willing to help anybody that needed help, and he just, you know, he was just a good guy, really, is about all I can say.
Uh-huh.
He was a good guy.
Yeah, that's great. And both of you were members of the church security team.
Uh-huh.
Do I remember that correctly?
Yes.
Had y'all trained? I mean, did both of you carry guns, or can you tell me a little bit, I guess, about kind of the training and what your history was there?
We actually well, Rich is a hunter, and I was years ago, but we trained under Jack Wilson. We went through his class, and then we went out to his gun range, and that's where we learned, and we both carried on a daily basis. So
Uh-huh. So you both were carrying the day that this happened.
yes.
What do you remember about, or say as much or as little as you feel comfortable with, but as far as what you remember about worship that morning and that day and what happened that day?
The thing that resonates with me the most is Rich and I, with us both being on the security team, there were certain times of the morning that we would make eye contact and we would, see each other. And um, I don't know what to, anyway, the guy came in the door where I was at. And as he came in, there was just something in his face that just, he was, of course, he had on a beard and a wig and had a hoodie pulled up. And I told one of the other people standing there, I said, we need to go make sure Jack knows that he's in the building. So, and it was getting close to the meet and greet time. And I picked up my things and was walking up the aisle, and that's one of the times that I would have seen Rich. And I didn't see him standing there. And so I went into the auditorium, and as I'm going into the auditorium, that guy was coming back out. So in my mind, I'm dismissing it because I think, okay, surely he's not going to come back into this auditorium. So I usually sit on, we had back chairs along the back walls. And I usually sat on either one side or the other on the back wall. And for whatever reason, I just decided I didn't want to sit back there that morning. So I went up and sat with some friends of ours. And I still didn't know, I still don't remember seeing Rich, but evidently, as the guy came out, Rich was not very far behind him coming out at the same time he was. So anyway, I had gone up and sat down
And he got up. I guess you're talking about the guy had sat down and then got up during the meet and greet time and went to
yes,
the restroom or somewhere. Did he go to
yes,
the restroom? Okay.
yes, he went to the restroom. He
Okay.
went,
And Rich had followed him at that point,
yes,
is what you're saying.
he-
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So he, after that, I had just put it out of my mind because I thought, well, he went out. So, and so when Rich went up he had scripture meeting that morning. And when he went up to read the scripture, I can remember sitting there looking at him thinking something's off. And for whatever reason, I didn't turn around. We were maybe 4 or 5 pews up off the back, but I didn't turn around to see, what was going on behind to make him act the way he was acting. And he just didn't have his normal stance that he would have usually had while he was up there, and
Uh-huh.
his tone was very flat when he read, and that's not normally Rich. He's, more animated with what he, when he's speaking and when he's reading.
Uh-huh.
So usually when he gets finished, he would come down the aisle, whatever aisle I'm sitting on, and either sit beside me or wave to me as he walked by. And he didn't. He walked over to the far wall and walked up. And there again, I'm thinking, what is up? But I didn't know. So we just went on with service, and it wasn't, I guess we had the prayer, we had the scripture. And then I think we had another song, and then we did the communion.
Uh-huh.
And after we did the bread part of it, and we were sitting there waiting for the prayer to be said for the fruit of the vine, I heard something, and I don't know if it, it could have been, I thought it was maybe Rich's voice. Something drew my attention to the back. So as I was turning my head, I seen the guy stepping back, and I could see the gun come up. And at that point, I just started screaming for everybody to get down, because I just seen a gun, and I knew it wasn't a handgun. I knew it was a long gun, and I didn't know what kind. So I just started screaming for everybody to get down. And I got down, made sure, everybody around me was down. And then the people I was sitting with, he got up and went over me to go over, and I came up right behind him. And the next thing I remember was standing there, looking at the guy on the ground. That was the next thing I remember. But, since then I've seen the video, and because people were telling me I did all this other stuff, and I have no recollection of it at all.
What were they saying that you had done?
When I came out of the pew, I went back a couple pews, and I mean, there were tons of kids sitting on that side of the auditorium. And I went back there and was ushering people out, getting some of the parents and kids and all of them out of that area to get, to go out into the foyer area. And I have no recollection of that at all.
And were you on the right side of the auditorium? I guess facing the pulpit, you were on the right side, or?
I was on the left.
You were on the left side.
Yeah.
So you were on the same side as the shooter? Just
Yes.
over on the other side closer to the
Yeah.
middle?
There were, there's 4 sections of pews, and I was in the second section, and he was over against the wall in the first section.
Okay. And you didn't, I guess you don't remember, I guess, a lot of what happened there. And you didn't, I think at the funeral that was mentioned, I think Brett Farmer, the minister, mentioned that you didn't even realize that Rich had been shot initially.
No. When I stood there, I knew I heard 2 shots. Well, I actually heard 3 audible shots that I knew were 3 shots, but there were actually 4 that were shot. Evidently, well, from watching the video, Rich stood up and told him to drop it. And as he was doing that, he was pulling his own weapon, and that took his attention. He was aiming at Tony, and that took his attention off of Tony and put it on Rich. So he fired at Rich and then fired at Tony. And as he was turning to go up make his way up the aisle, that's when Jack took him down. And, those 2, evidently he had his finger on the trigger, or he got another shot off just before he went down, because there was, up in the very front of the auditorium, you could see where the buckshot had gone through the wall.
How hard was that for you to watch the video?
At the very beginning, it really wasn't, because I needed answers to questions. I wanted to know where everybody was, why this happened or why that happened, or, I just needed to know what had happened, basically. But the thought of looking at it now, I can't do it.
Uh-huh. And when was that you did watch the video?
That was right after.
That was right after, as you were trying to get answers as to,
Yeah.
as to
Within
what had
the
happened.
month, I had
Okay.
seen it several times. Just,
Okay.
because I would watch it and I would, oh, there's there and them and them and them and them, and just trying to get an idea. And I did find that in that video, if I had gone back 2 more pews, I would have seen Rich down there. But I just went that one and then came back up. And that's when a friend of mine come up and told me that I needed to go back there with him. And,
And so was he gone at that point?
in my opinion, yes, he was. He had a very, very, very slight heart or pulse. So they started doing CPR, and I guess they kept doing CPR on him, but he was shot just right where his heart was. So, but when I looked at him, I just didn't think he was there anymore. I just really didn't. That ashen look, and just that short of a time, I knew his blood was not pumping. So
how do you even begin to 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 deal with something like that, or even the thought that this is actually real and this really happened?
in the beginning, I don't know. That's a good question, because it's bothering me more now than it did in the beginning. And I think it's because all the numbness is going away, and life has gone on. And we just celebrated our anniversary this month, and it I don't know, it's tougher right now than it was before, because it is real.
Uh-huh.
Then it was, I was always anticipating he was going to walk in, or with everything that went on around it, it was just, it didn't really start sinking in till about a month ago. And it's I've moved into a different stage, I guess.
Uh-huh. And when was your anniversary?
The 19th of August.
August 19th. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And so you talk about your church family. Have they, I guess, been there for you during this time?
As much as we can. The hard part about all of this, and it was just like a double whammy, but I have a very, very strong support group, and everybody has been just phenomenal. I mean, I grew up with these people, so they've watched me, everything I've been through, and they're literally my family. So it has, it's been overwhelming to know that I mean that much to people. And the fact that Rich, I'm still finding out different things that he was doing that I had no idea he was doing. It just, it just reinforces the kind of person he was. He didn't want everybody to know, well, I'm helping so and so, and I'm doing this, and that was just, he was one of those working in the back, making sure everything's all good.
Uh-huh. Wow. And so you have you been a part of West Freeway since it started, the congregation there? And I'm trying to remember.
I was part of Ridgely West. I grew up in the Ridgely West group.
Okay.
And then we all merged That happened right after I graduated, and of course I had gone on, got married, and moved on. But this has been my home congregation
Wow.
through
And that
life.
was after you graduated high school or
Uh,
college? High
After high
school?
school.
High
Mhm.
school. Okay. Okay. What I guess is, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, COVID-19, and there were, I guess, 2 or 3 months there where the church couldn't meet in person. How did that affect you and your grieving process? And I hate that terminology, but just your journey that you're on. You
Yeah.
discussed kind of this becoming more real. I mean, not being able to assemble with the church during that time, how did that affect you?
There were, I can't remember how many weeks. There were several weeks there where, I mean, even the office was shut down. We didn't go anywhere. It, I, they just said, everybody stay home if you are not essential. And I think that was like a couple weeks. And I had gotten used to, going up to the building, even through right after, I guess the week after Rich's funeral, I started going so I could, I just needed to be with people. And then the pandemic hit. And I think a lot of that, I'm grateful for having that time because it forced me to grieve because I was so busy making sure everybody else was okay.
Uh-huh.
You know, I was putting on a good front because I didn't want to bring anyone else down, and um, so it really it forced me to really grieve him. But in that, I've got the blessing of all of those memories flooded back in, and it was good for me. I don't, just on that note, because
Uh-huh.
it was, you know, it was one on one with me and these walls.
Yeah, and,
Oh,
and that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I guess the church is getting ready on Sunday to worship in the auditorium, which has been through a big renovation process to worship for the first time. I guess with you working so closely with the church, can you tell me a little bit about, I guess, about kind of what has occurred with the auditorium and how it might, why a renovation was needed and how it might be different when people come back on Sunday to worship there for the first time?
when you first walk in, it's almost overwhelming. It's not the same place. It is just totally not the same place. Um, of course, new carpet, new pews. Um, the sound booth got shifted over to where, so the sound booth, you used to be in this little bitty glass room, and now they're out more at the back over where the shooting occurred, but they're out in the auditorium now. So they're more, they can feel more like they're participating, for lack of better words. So that has changed, and there's just been a few painting and things like that, and then some audio visual changes in the
Yeah.
sound system and things
New
like
new pews, new carpeting, a new pulpit. So
that.
like you said, it's going to feel like a brand new. It's going to feel different, yet it's
Yeah,
the same. I guess
yeah,
the same geographic location. Do
right.
you do you have any idea of what it might be like for you to be back in there? Are you planning to be there on Sunday?
I'm going to be there Sunday.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine last night about this, and I'm there every day, so I'm watching all of the transformations and seeing, you know, I mean, it's beautiful. It is very beautiful, but in my heart, it hurts because it had to be changed.
Uh-huh.
It you know, it just, it's a double, it has double meaning for me. I mean, it's beautiful. I love it in there. It's very peaceful to me, but I don't know as of yet how that first service is going to be, you know, especially even now at communion time. I get, there's times when I just get so nervous that it's almost unbearable. So I don't know. It's going to be a surprise for all of it.
And y'all have been, since you, I guess you've been back several weeks after you know, kind of coming back after being out for the
Yeah,
coronavirus, but you've been
yeah,
meeting in the fellowship hall to this
yeah,
point during the
yeah,
renovations to the auditorium.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, Glenda, thank you so much. I know it's a
Welcome.
difficult subject for you. Anything else that you think people watching this would be interested to know, or anything important that I've neglected to ask you?
No, the only thing that I really, and I pray over this more than I do anything else really, is I'm upset at the fact that I am not as trusting as I used to be. In working at the church, there are people that come up all the time, and we're supposed to be good stewards of Jesus. And I really struggle with, I want to have that caring, that giving and helping, because I know that's what Rich would be wanting me to do, to get back into that frame of mind. But it's tough. It is really, really tough after you go through something like this to embrace that again. But I feel like we're getting a little bit closer and closer. It's, you know, with me personally, it's just something that's in the back of my mind that, you know, I just never know what's going to set it off for me
Uh-huh.
again.
Will you
So,
will you still be carrying a gun and still kind of
okay.
be you're still on the security team, and
Yes.
I guess that's something y'all probably take even more seriously now
Oh,
than
yeah.
you
Oh, yeah.
obviously did before.
It's, you know, and that's what we were talking about last night. There's a fine line between helping and still being cautious.
Uh-huh.
And everybody has to find that line.
Uh-huh.
And with me, it's going to be totally different from someone else,
Uh-huh.
because of what I've been through.
Uh-huh.
But
And I guess even with the shooter in this case, he was obviously, you recognized something seemed to miss when you walked in, and obviously Rich and Jack and, you know, others had their eyes on him, yet this still happened. And I'm trying to remember, I think Hugh Gallion, you know, he kind of pointed out, we're not wanting to frisk people at the door. We're wanting to be here and let people who want to come find Jesus be here. So that's kind of how you end up with, you know, what you were talking about, you know, as far as the balance.
right, right. And, you know, still, I mean, we won't turn anybody away that wants to come and worship with us. I mean, that's why we're here. Um, but we are a little more cautious now, and you know, it's sad that the world has made it that way. That, you know, it's just really sad that you can't even be safe in your church, and that's been the case for a long time. But when it hits you where you worship, it puts a whole new meaning to it.
Uh, well, Glenda, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.